The water of the East River is black, freezing and churning with absolute panic. It is the dead of night, late August 1776. A thick, unnatural fog has rolled in over the harbour, masking the desperate, chaotic retreat of George Washington's Continental Army. They have just been utterly crushed at the Battle of Brooklyn. Thousands of exhausted, bleeding, and terrified American militia are silently piling into flat-bottomed boats, muffling their oars with rags so the British warships anchored just yards away won't hear them. They are abandoning the heights and fleeing onto the island of Manhattan. But Manhattan offers no safety. It is a trap. We are stripping away the neon lights, the yellow cabs, and the towering glass monoliths of the modern financial district. We are plunging you directly into the most terrifying, apocalyptic moment in the history of New York. Forget the bustling, wealthy metropolis. In the late summer of 1776, New York is a paranoid, violently divided colonial outpost on the brink of total annihilation. It is a city of barely 25,000 people, and it is entirely concentrated at the very southern tip of the island. If you walk north of where City Hall sits today, you aren't in the city anymore. You are in open countryside, surrounded by apple orchards, dense woods, and the sprawling country estates of wealthy merchants. And right now, that tiny, cramped city is staring down the barrel of the largest amphibious invasion force the world will see until D-Day. Stand at the battery and look out at the harbour. You cannot see the horizon. The water is completely choked by a literal forest of wooden masts. Over 400 British warships and transport vessels have dropped anchor in the bay. 32,000 highly disciplined, fully equipped soldiers of the British Empire are preparing to storm the island. The sheer psychological terror of looking out your bedroom window and seeing a floating city of heavy artillery preparing to level your home is paralyzing. Walk up the cobblestones of Broad Street. The atmosphere is poisonous. This is not a city united in the noble cause of liberty. It is a city tearing its own throat out. New York is deeply, bitterly divided. Neighbors are turning on neighbors. For months, radical patriot mobs known as the Sons of Liberty have been roaming these very streets. If you were suspected of being a loyalist, someone who still supported King George, you could be dragged from your bed in the middle of the night, stripped naked, covered in boiling hot pine tar, and coated in goose feathers. It is an agonizing, permanently scarring torture. Just weeks ago, right on Bowling Green, a massive mob attached ropes to a 2-ton gilded lead statue of King George III on horseback, ripped it off its marble pedestal, and hacked it to pieces to melt down into tens of thousands of musket balls. But tonight, the Patriots are the ones running for their lives. As Washington's broken army retreats further north up the island toward Harlem, the British unleash their assault. General William Howe's forces land at Kip's Bay, pushing into the city. And they aren't alone. Marching alongside the British redcoats are the Hessians. You hear them before you see them. The sharp, guttural bark of German commands echoing off the brick townhouses. The Hessians are professional, ruthless mercenaries hired by the British Crown. They wear towering, brass-fronted mitre caps that make them look 8 feet tall, and their coats are dyed a deep, terrifying blue and green. They carry short, heavy rifles and brutal, brass-hilted swords. Rumours have flooded the city that the Hessians take no prisoners, that they bayonet men who try to surrender. As they march down Broadway, kicking in the doors of abandoned Patriot homes and looting wine cellars, a suffocating military occupation settles over the city. New York officially belongs to the British, but the true nightmare hasn't even begun. Fast forward just a few weeks. It is the night of September 20th. The weather has been incredibly dry and a fierce, howling gale is blowing in from the southwest. Down near the southernmost docks, on a narrow alley near Whitehall Slip, sits a cheap, wooden tavern called the Fighting Cocks. At exactly midnight, in the dark, a spark catches. Within minutes, the dry wooden tavern is entirely engulfed. Fanned by the violent winds, the flames leap across the narrow dirt streets. The city of New York is primarily built of yellow pine and cedar shingles. It is a massive, tightly packed tinderbox. The fire bells begin to ring wildly, a desperate, terrifying clanging that wakes the entire sleeping city. Citizens and British soldiers pour into the streets, hauling heavy leather buckets of water from the public wells. But it's no use. The wind is too strong. The flames begin moving faster than a man can run, creating a roaring firestorm that sucks the oxygen out of the alleys. And then a dark realization sweeps through the crowd. The city's fire engines, crude hand-pumped wooden wagons, aren't working. The leather hoses have been slashed. The pump handles are mysteriously broken. Sabotage. British soldiers spot figures moving in the shadows, holding torches and matches. Panic turns into a bloodbath. The British are entirely convinced that Washington's spies are deliberately burning the city to the ground to deny them winter quarters. Hessian mercenaries and furious British Marines begin grabbing anyone they suspect of being a rebel arsonist. Men are pinned against brick walls and bayoneted on the spot. Some are picked up and thrown entirely alive into the burning buildings. The fire becomes an unstoppable, apocalyptic wall of heat moving north up the west side of Broadway. It consumes massive, opulent brick mansions and filthy wooden taverns alike. Stand near Wall Street and look toward the sky. The heat is so intense that the lead gutters on the roofs are literally melting, pouring down onto the cobblestones in scalding, toxic rain. The air is thick with blinding, choking black smoke and flying embers the size of dinner plates. And then the fire reaches the crown jewel of the city, Trinity Church. It is a towering, magnificent Gothic structure with a spire that reaches 175 feet into the sky. The citizens watch in absolute horror as the wind blows a sheet of fire directly onto the church's steep wooden roof. The flames climb the spire like a ladder. For a few agonizing minutes, the entire steeple becomes a towering pyramid of pure fire, illuminating the devastated city in a hellish orange glow. And then, with a deafening, thunderous crack, the massive spire collapses inward. The roof caves in, burying the pews and the organ in a mountain of blazing ash. By the time the sun finally rises through the thick, choking smog the next morning, the wind has died down and the fire has stopped. But the damage is catastrophic. Look out over the western half of the city. Over 500 buildings, nearly a quarter of the entire metropolis, have been reduced to smoking, blackened craters. Only the skeletal, charred stone walls of Trinity Church remain standing, a haunting monument overlooking a graveyard covered in white ash. In the immediate aftermath, the British military cracks down with a brutal iron fist. The hunt for spies intensifies. Just one day after the fire, a young 21-year-old American schoolteacher who was caught behind enemy lines carrying sketches of British fortifications is dragged to an artillery park near a tavern on the east side. He is denied a trial, denied a priest, and marched to an apple tree with a noose around his neck. His name is Nathan Hale. As they place the rope over his head, he reportedly speaks his final immortal words. "I only regret that I have but one life to lose for my country." He is hanged from the branch, and his body is left dangling in the wind for days as a warning to the devastated citizens. For the next 7 years, New York will remain a dark, occupied military prison. The wealthy loyalists and British officers will commandeer the surviving mansions, hosting opulent winter balls and theatre productions, drinking imported port wine while the city outside starves. But what happens to the thousands of poor citizens whose homes were incinerated in the Great Fire? They are forced to live in the ruins. They gather the charred bricks, scavenge old, mouldy canvas, ship sails from the docks, and pitch crude, freezing tents directly inside the blackened foundations of their former homes. This sprawling, desperate shantytown of ash and canvas becomes known as Canvas Town. It becomes a dangerous, lawless slum of desperate refugees, prostitutes, and thieves, surviving the freezing New York winters by burning whatever scraps of wood they can pry from the wreckage. New York in 1776 is not a story of glorious, shining liberty. It is a story of survival in the ruins of a war zone. It is a city that was conquered, burned, occupied, and starved. But the fire did not break the island. When the British finally evacuated the city 7 long years later in 1783, George Washington rode his horse back down the scarred, ruined streets of Broadway, past the blackened skeleton of Trinity Church, to reclaim a city that had paid the ultimate price for the Revolution. The ashes of Canvas Town were eventually cleared. New streets were laid over the scorched earth. But if you walk through the graveyard of Trinity Church today, right at the corner of Wall Street and Broadway, you are walking on the exact soil where the inferno finally burned itself out. The towering skyscrapers surrounding you are built directly on top of the rubble of 1776. The city of glass and steel was born from the ashes of a colonial apocalypse. This video is brought to you by the Paladin Learn History app.